The fake heiress gave me a strawberry-flavored lip balm, and I turned around and used it to care for a sow's rear end. It was all because, in my previous life, after my wealthy birth parents took me back home, the fake heiress used the lip balm to swap my looks and health. Originally frail and sickly, she gradually recovered and became increasingly beautiful, with her outstanding appearance. She was successfully chosen as the female lead in a movie and instantly became a trending White Lotus star. Meanwhile, I became increasingly ugly as I was plagued by severe illness, was ostracized and bullied, and fell into depression and illness. My adoptive mother, who loved me dearly, was in a car accident while running around everywhere to raise money for my treatment, and I knelt to beg my wealthy birth parents to lend me money to save her, but I unexpectedly learned that they had brought me home only to swap lives with the fake heiress. After my adoptive mother died, I also took my own life. In despair, when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the year I was just taken back by my wealthy birth parents. Your lips are chapped again. This strawberry-flavored lip balm is something I specially made by hand for you. Girls need to take good care of themselves. Just as I opened my eyes, I saw the fake heiress Gu Yunchu pinch my chin, preparing to personally apply lip balm for me. I froze all over and abruptly took a step back. What caught my eye was a dazzling crystal chandelier, while soft, soothing piano music enveloped the entire banquet hall. It's Gu Yunchu's birthday banquet. Before I could react, I heard a burst of admiration beside me, as expected of a beautiful and kind-hearted young lady from a wealthy family. She was actually so gentle to that ugly freak. Just looking at all that greasy fat and those pus-filled pimples, aren't she afraid of catching something from her? You don't know. They're biological sisters. I really don't know how the gap between sisters could be so huge. I almost threw up when I saw her face just now. Look at that ugly freak's expression. Miss Yunchu is personally applying lipstick for her, and she still looks so impatient. She's really asking for a beating. How could she be worthy of it? Hearing these words, a trace of smugness flashed in Gu Yunchu's eyes. She curved her lips and said to me in an even gentler voice, "Come on, let your sister apply it for you. Hurry up and pout your lips." At this moment in my previous life, I was moved to tears and vowed to treat her as my best sister. After I was taken back home by my wealthy parents, I transferred to a prestigious high school. Not only was I not welcomed by my classmates, even my biological parents were cold and indifferent toward me. Only Gu Yunchu, from beginning to end, treated me with the gentle and considerate care of a little angel. But having died once, I knew very well that the so-called beautiful and kind-hearted Gu Yunchu, though seemingly gentle and considerate, was in fact all along using lipstick to steal my looks and health. From the plain and unremarkable appearance she had when I first met her, to the soul-stirring charm of every frown and smile now, whereas I became increasingly fat and clumsy, my face covered in pustules, my body hair thick and coarse, my hair nearly balding into a Mediterranean-style fringe, and I developed many baffling and tormenting illnesses. All sorts of setbacks left me anxious and fearful every day, and my grades quickly fell to the bottom. Thinking back on everything that had happened, I raised my hand to stop Gu Yunchu. Feigning an overwhelmed expression, I said, "Thanks, how could I possibly deserve to use it? I just need to drink more water." Seeing that I didn't want it, the boys who had a crush on Gu Yunchu became restless. "If she doesn't want it, forget it, give it to me then. My lips are really dry too. Give it to me, give it to me. I love strawberry flavor the most, moi. Put it on for me." As she spoke, she puckered her lips and leaned over. Gu Yunchu was trapped in the middle and panicked. Her little face turned pale, full of alarm. "No, this is specially made by me for my little sister." I took the chance to leave in the chaos, but Gu Yunchu suddenly burst into tears, too. This time, the boy who had just been pouting for lip balm panicked and immediately surrounded me, cursing. "We told you to apply it, so apply it. Is your pig mouth so precious? What are you putting on airs for? Ugly people always make a scene. Disgusting or what? Yunchu treats you so well, and if you still don't know what's good for you, believe it or not, I'll slap your pig face till it bursts. Hurry up, once you're done applying it, get lost." The commotion was a bit too loud, and the others kept glancing over here. Even though I had already died once, facing such blunt humiliation, my face still flushed red and my eyes stung slightly. Before I could say anything, Gu Yunchu hurriedly shielded me again. "Don't be so harsh on Anan. No matter what, she's still my best sister. Maybe she just doesn't like me very much." As Gu Yunchu spoke, tears welled up in her eyes, and her voice even began to choke. Seeing the goddess in tears, those few boys couldn't hold back any longer. They immediately rushed toward me. One grabbed my hair, while another pinched my mouth and told Gu Yunchu to hurry over and put lipstick on me. Gu Yunchu lowered her eyelashes, the mockery in her eyes impossible to hide, yet she still pretended to be flustered and helpless as she tried to stop them. Don't do this, don't be so rough with Anan, or she'll hate me again. The boys listening were furious, and their hands grew even rougher as the lipstick came closer. The pain brought tears to my eyes, and I hurriedly begged for mercy. I'll put it on myself, I'll put it on myself. Just then, my rich parents and several middle-aged men walked over this way. Yunchu, come here quickly, Mom. We'll introduce you to Uncle Hua. What's going on over there? Several boys, upon hearing the voice, reluctantly let go and shoved the lipstick into my hands, complaining that their hands were all greasy and reeked of a disgusting pig smell. They hurried off to the restroom to wash their hands. Gu Yunchu turned her head, and her gaze quickly fell on the boy standing beside the middle-aged man. The boy was tall and straight-backed, with an outstanding air about him. His look seemed as if he had stepped right out of a movie, making it impossible to look away. I immediately remembered that this boy was Wu Jingze, the famously handsome heartthrob of the school. She instantly blushed and walked over in an affected, pretentious manner. Nothing much, I just noticed my younger sister's lips were a little dry, so I kindly gave her a lipstick. Dad glanced at me, his eyes dark and deep, carrying a hint of warning. It's good that nothing's wrong. He turned back and continued, your Uncle Hua Guang's family is investing in a new movie. I heard they're holding an open audition for the female lead. I wonder if you're interested. Gu Yunchu looked delighted, but then pretended to be very innocent. Ah, me, 3. Her father smiled and nodded, then asked Wu Guang, well, how about it? How is my daughter? Wu Guang seemed quite satisfied, and was just about to say something when Hu Jingze suddenly spoke. It's more appropriate for the female lead to be chosen through a fair competition. Besides looks, character and grades are also very important. He carried himself with such haughtiness, as if he didn't put anyone in his eyes, yet it was precisely this attitude that made the girls around him gasp softly, their eyes full of pink bubbles. Gu Yunchu brushed back a strand of hair, a blush rising on her face. Turning to Hu Guang, she smiled faintly. What classmate Hua said makes sense. I also hope I can get the chance through fair competition. Uncle Hua, may I ask how one can participate in the open audition? Is there anything we need to pay attention to? Wu Guang nodded with a smile and casually asked Wu Jingze to help explain, even telling him to add Gu Yunchu as a friend so they could discuss it in detail. Unexpectedly, Wu Jingze raised his brows. Check the rules on the official website yourself. If you can't understand them, you probably won't be able to grasp the characters' lines, so there's no need to be the female lead. The cold words slipped out from his thin lips, and Gu Yunchu's eyes reddened, as her whole body seemed to tremble slightly. The next second, Wu Guang grabbed Wu Jingze's phone and forcibly added the two of them as friends. Don't mind it, my son is just like that, uncle's rooting for you. Only then did Gu Yunchu break into a smile through her tears, with the corners of her eyes and the tip of her nose all red, looking utterly pitiful. The adults went over to the side to continue their discussion. The classmates gathered around again, and their gossiping spirits quickly ignited. Oh my God, you two are actually family friends. Won't you end up getting married someday? I'm so jealous. Woo, I heard his family is ridiculously rich. More than that, his dad has invested in a lot of entertainment companies, and his mom is a well-known producer. Rumor has it the male lead for that movie was basically already picked as him. Oh my God, I'm shipped. From now on, I'm a fan of your ship. Gu Yunchu's face was flushed red, and she couldn't hide the pride in her eyes, yet she shyly waved her hands and said, I just wanted to try acting and give myself some challenges. As for other things, I haven't thought that far ahead yet. It was about time, so she went over to cut the cake. Amid everyone's blessings, she closed her eyes and made a wish. Today is also my birthday, but no one cares. After the banquet ended, she realized I had already left and immediately called to remind me. Did you take the lipstick I gave you? Remember to use it on time every day. Did you hear me? I heard you. I'll use it. Only then did she hang up in satisfaction. The family didn't care at all where I had gone, not even bothering to ask, and I, on the other hand, couldn't wait to go back to my adoptive mother's home. It was in a shantytown, and she raised me by raising pigs. When she saw me come back, my adoptive mother was especially happy, yet also especially flustered. How can you still come to a place like this? Ah, it's so dirty here. Why did you come here? What would you like to eat? Mom will go. No, I'll make it for you. My adoptive mother hurriedly wiped her hands, then felt they still weren't clean enough and washed them carefully again with soap. Looking at my adoptive mother's gray temples, I could no longer hold back and threw myself into her arms. "Mom," my adoptive mother was very surprised. She hurriedly held me and asked if I had been wronged. I shook my head and acted coquettishly, saying, "It's nothing, I just missed you too much." Back then, the nanny who switched me with my wealthy parents threw me into a garbage truck. It was my adoptive mother who brought me home just before the garbage truck arrived and raised me on formula and rice cereal. Even now, that nanny is still by the side of my wealthy parents. In my previous life, when my adoptive mother was running around desperately for my treatment and was hit by a car, I went to beg my wealthy parents to lend me money, but the nanny deliberately stopped me and wouldn't let me in. By the time I helplessly returned to the hospital, my adoptive mother had already passed away. With deep regret, thinking of everything from my past life, and seeing my foster mother growing older by the day, my heart ached uncontrollably. In this life, I will definitely protect my foster mother well, and I will never let her suffer because of me again. After coaxing me into good spirits, my foster mother turned around with a smile and went to make me food, and I, just like before, helped clean out the chicken coop and pigsty. The sow at home had just given birth to 12 piglets, and her rear end was a bloody mess. I remembered that Gu Yunchu had boasted about using expensive strawberry essential oil, and I figured that such an expensive thing would probably work well on a pig's rear end too. I twisted open the lipstick and carefully began postpartum butt repair treatment on the sow. For the next day, when I got up and looked in the mirror, I was shocked to see that 5 or 6 of the pustules hanging on the tip of my nose had gone down. The once perky outline was still faintly visible. I suppressed my secret delight and, on my way to school, I conveniently bought a strawberry-flavored lip balm that looked similar. On the surface, Gu Yunchu seemed as graceful and detached as a chrysanthemum, but behind the scenes she had signed up for several acting classes and was kept busy. However, even so, her figure became increasingly bloated, the clothes she wore grew looser and looser, and her skin even took on a somewhat darkened tone. She had no time to hassle me and could only hurry to schedule all kinds of cosmetic treatments. I happened to have a lot of free time to study properly. The biggest regret in my previous life was that I never got to go to college and never managed to escape my fate to repay my adoptive mother. In this life, I clearly understand that apart from health and life itself, only the knowledge stored in my mind is something no one can ever take away. Every day I studied day and night. Whenever I didn't understand something, I would chase after the teacher and keep asking, ignoring the cold stares and biting sarcasm from others, fully devoting myself to my studies. That day, right after finishing lunch and going back to the classroom to read, I heard a commotion outside. "Wow, Yun Chu passed the preliminary round. I knew you could do it. I guess attending the auditions was just a formality. It was probably decided long ago." Needless to say, their families are so close. Yun Chu, things between you two must have progressed too, right? Tell us so we can share in your good fortune. Amid everyone's amazed exclamations, Gu Yunchu shyly brushed the loose strands of hair by her ear and gave a seemingly nonchalant smile. "I can't really say what the future holds. I just want to enrich my life experience. As for his business, I don't want to casually spread someone's privacy, so please understand." Everyone, her manner seemed to imply that she had already been quietly chosen and that her relationship with Wu Jingze was anything but ordinary, which only made everyone admire and envy her even more. I gazed at my nose at my mouth, and focused on reading my own book. Unexpectedly, Gu Yunchu looked at me from afar. Compared with becoming some big star, I still think being ordinary is better. I'm actually more envious of my younger sister, who has no one bothering her and can properly enjoy her own world. Her words drew another round of flattery. As expected of Goddess Yunchu, her level of thought is truly elevated. No wonder Wu Jingze took a liking to you. You really are something special. Looking at the smugness that Gu Yunchu couldn't hide, I found it amusing. She said she was envious, but if it were really given to her, she'd be unhappy again. Seeing that I didn't react, Gu Yunchu deliberately walked up to me again. "If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me. These questions are probably too difficult for you." She looked down at me from above, her beautiful eyes full of mockery. The people around her immediately joined in making fun of me. "Not everyone can achieve their life goals through studying. Someone like you doesn't need to take the path of education. You'd make money faster working at a zoo." Everyone burst into laughter. I held the book motionless, as if I hadn't heard a thing. "I'm not the same as them. They have their families backing them, but I have no one behind me. But I have someone I must protect, no matter how slim the hope." I will keep moving forward without wavering. 5. After entering the preliminary round, Gu Yunchu became even busier, and the effects of the tutoring gradually became apparent. Her performance not only caught the judges' attention but also won her quite a few fans online. People often saw her walking side by side with Hu Jingze. Everyone was spreading rumors that the two were dating. My wealthy parents even made sure to call and remind me to take more care of Gu Yunchu, not to be so cold and selfish, and to remember to use the lipstick Gu Yunchu gave me on time so as not to break her heart. I agreed verbally, but behind the scenes I gave the Sao continuous care every day without fail. Time passed quickly, and the weather grew hotter and hotter. I was dressed more and more lightly. That day, I was wearing a hat and memorizing vocabulary words while walking around the playground. Suddenly, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around, and the person was startled. Why is it you? It turned out that Qin Yuhang, the dark-skinned, athletic guy who had secretly had a crush on Gu Yunchu before, instinctively pinched his nose when he saw me, but a flicker of surprise crossed his eyes when he clearly saw my face. You lost weight, did you take clenbuterol? He spoke in a very loud, exaggerated tone, causing everyone around to keep turning back. I lifted my eyes calmly and looked at Qin Yuhang without blinking. After 2 seconds, I looked him up and down and let out a snort of laughter. And you, did you eat 10 gorillas or something, so you can't even throw a ball properly? Qin Yuhang's face darkened at once. You stinking pig woman, you're asking for death. He raised his hand and slammed the ball down in front of me. If it had been the clumsy, weak me from before, I would have had no choice but to take the hit, but ever since I gradually regained my health, I'd had strength in every part of my body. After all, I'd been helping my adoptive mother raise pigs for nearly 18 years. I lifted my hand and spun the basketball rapidly on my fingertip. My tone was mocking. A loser who can't even make a three-pointer. You can shoot, then let's make a bet. If you make it, I'll apologize. If I make it, then you'll be my slave, kneeling every day to help me wipe my shoes. A malicious glint flashed in Qin Yuhang's eyes. Hearing this demand, the whole audience erupted in an uproar. What a coincidence. Gu Yunchu and Hu Jingze walked over side by side. At first, Gu Yunchu had been trying hard to find a topic to lead Hu Jingze away. She couldn't have been more eager to see me bullied, but who would have thought that Hu Jingze would actually walk toward me? She could only jog over after him, pretending to have just noticed me as she exclaimed softly, Anan, what are you doing, Qin Yuhang? If Anan has offended you, then I apologize to you. Please spare her this time. She's different from us. She came from the countryside and grew up in a pigsty since she was little. She's very pitiful. Gu Yunchu blinked and pleaded softly and weakly. 6. Seeing this, Qin Yuhang scratched his head awkwardly. Then I'll just, before he could finish, I casually made a shot, and from several meters outside the center line, the basketball went in with pinpoint accuracy. Everyone's mouths formed a huge "oh." I curled my lips into a faint smile. I am indeed different from you. Even if I were better than you, I wouldn't use that to force you to kneel and wipe my shoes. That's the difference between our two souls. Amid everyone's shock, I turned around and left gracefully. Unexpectedly, Hu Jingze suddenly quickened his pace and came up to me. Wait a second, classmate. He looked down at me, and in his originally cold eyes, there seemed to be a hint of surprise and admiration. Are you interested in participating in the preliminary audition? Everyone was shocked once again. No one expected that someone as aloof as him would actually take the initiative to speak to a girl, and even less did anyone expect that the first thing he said would be this. Gu Yunchu was grinding her teeth so hard she almost bit them to pieces. She clenched her fists several times before finally forcing herself to hold back. Oh, Jingze, stop teasing her. How could she possibly know how to act, right? Anan, I found it amusing to watch, but I didn't argue. Let them walk away. But from that day on, would often run into Hu Jingze inexplicably. Sometimes it was just a brief face-to-face encounter, our eyes meeting. Sometimes, while I was buried in my studies, he would try to strike up a conversation and greet me, but I would just pretend not to hear him and ignore him. As time passed, the midterm exams soon arrived, and I took the test paper with full confidence and worked through the questions seriously. The next week, the results came out. The homeroom teacher walked in excitedly, holding the roster, tears welling in her eyes. Our class finally made something of itself. We actually have a first-place student. The moment she called out my name in front of everyone, I thought I was dreaming. It wasn't until class ended that I found out I wasn't just first in the class. I had also knocked down Hu Jingze, the perennial top scorer, and become first in the grade. I was overjoyed, but I quickly returned to a state of calm. It was only one exam, after all. there would be many more in the future. I still needed to keep working hard. Meanwhile, Gu Yunchu had come in at the bottom of the class, while the preliminary selection had already advanced to the top 10. That evening, Gu Yunchu, whom I hadn't seen for a long time, suddenly came to my house. By then, she was wrapped up tightly from head to toe. As soon as she arrived at my house, she looked disgusted and kept gagging. "Why didn't you answer your phone? Did you actually apply the lip balm I gave you?" I pretended to be clueless, took out the lip balm, and carefully applied it in front of her. "Of course I did." "Strange, then how did I end up?" She frowned and gave a reluctant nod, then said, "It's Dad's birthday this weekend, remember to come." After saying that, she was about to leave, but then seemed to think of something and suddenly came back to warn me, "You'd better not fall for Jing Zhe. People should know their place, right?" Of course, I'm not saying this for myself. I'm mainly worried you'll get hurt. Jing Zhe's parents have very high standards for their daughter-in-law, you know. Looking at the pockmarks under her mask that could not be concealed, and her waist that had thickened by a whole size, I nodded with a silly grin. "Got it." After she left, I cupped some clean water in my hands and washed my face. The boils and pimples on my face had completely subsided, and the swelling had gone down quite a bit. Even my hair had grown out a lot of fine fuzz. To avoid drawing attention, I carefully put on makeup before school every time. It seems the effect is excellent. Looking at myself in the mirror, about to regain my appearance, I also started looking forward to Dad's birthday banquet this weekend. In my previous life, Gu Yunchu most liked humiliating me on occasions like this. It was also because she kept setting me up and making me embarrass myself that my parents, who already cared so much about appearances, came to avoid me like the plague and wished they could erase me on the spot. But starting now, I will completely turn the situation around. I will return all the suffering that was inflicted on me in my past life to Gu Yunchu, exactly as it was. 7. On the eve of my dad's birthday banquet, Gu Yunchu gave me an evening gown. Then, in front of everyone, she slandered me, saying that not only had I stolen her evening gown, I had also deliberately altered it with scissors to expose my waist in an attempt to seduce wealthy businessmen. As a result, my father slapped me in front of everyone and threw me out of the banquet hall, and I had simply never worn a gown before, so I couldn't tell whether that was the design or just a tear. Seeing this dress again, I couldn't help clenching my hands. It wasn't anger or fear, but excitement. As night fell, I arrived at the ballroom wearing the modified evening gown, with a top hat and veil. When everyone saw me, they immediately burst into murmured discussion. I heard Jiang Luan is the housekeeper's daughter and not the Gu family's biological child at all. Out of kindness, the Gus sent her to top-tier schools and provided her with a worry-free life. Yet she ended up treating the family's real young lady in such an appalling way. She's so ugly. She should have been honest and well-behaved, right? You really can't judge a book by its cover. I was utterly confused. I looked up and around, and just then the person in the seat ahead was watching a video. In the video, the woman had a ferocious expression on her face, questioning why the other person wouldn't just get out of the Gu family. Because of her emotional outburst, she looked utterly ugly and even scratched the other person's face. The camera then shifted, revealing the crisscrossed red and swollen wounds on Gu Yunchu's face, and from off-camera came my gritted teeth growl, "Bitch, Wu Jingze is mine. I'll ruin your face and see if you dare fight me for him again." Not only the phones in the front row, but also those on the left and right, all at once, almost everyone received this video. Although no one openly scolded me, everyone looked at me as if I were a monster, their eyes full of disgust and contempt. No wonder Gu Yunchu had insisted so earnestly that I come to Dad's birthday banquet. Sure enough, it was nothing good. With a calm expression, I brushed off my skirt and calmly took out my phone. The current AI technology is truly remarkable. Why not call the police and have them help verify it? Just as the words fell, Gu Yunchu, who had been nowhere to be seen, appeared. For some reason, Gu Yunchu, who had always loved to steal the spotlight at banquets, had actually wrapped herself up tightly, exposing only her eyes. Wait a minute, there must be some misunderstanding. She rushed over, pretending to casually snatch my phone away, then turned around and addressed the surrounding guests. My sister would never do something like this. Please delete the video immediately. I don't want my sister to be sad. Mom and Dad looked over at us. Clearly they had just finished watching the video too. When they looked at me, their eyes were full of anger. When they looked at Gu Yunchu, their eyes were full of affection. "Jiang Luan, you've gone too far," Dad said angrily, and he raised his hand to hurl the wine glass in it at me. I stepped back, and the glass shattered at my feet, the air filling with the smell of red wine. Just then, Wajingza walked over. He first placed the gift on the table and politely congratulated Dad on his birthday, then he turned and looked past Gu Yunchu at me, his eyes shining brightly. I don't believe Jiang Luan would do something like this, Uncle, Auntie. I can vouch for her. She studies very hard at school every day, and even when others provoke her, she has never paid them any mind. Gu Yunchu panicked and couldn't keep up the act anymore. If it wasn't her, then who else could it be? My face has been ruined. At this state, I can't even participate in the qualifying match. Wajingza laughed. Are you saying she scratched your face because of me? Isn't that right, huh? Wajingza sneered, his gaze falling on me again as he said meaningfully, if she were really jealous because of me, why is it that even now, she still hasn't accepted my friend request? The entire venue erupted in an uproar. Even Mom and Dad exchanged looks, unable to make sense of the situation. How was what Wajingza just said any different from a confession? Gu Yunchu was trembling all over with anger. No, impossible. Don't you know how ugly she is? She laughed hysterically. She's as ugly as a pig. If you don't believe me, I'll let you see for yourself. As she spoke, she stumbled over and tried to pull the sheer veil from my face. Unexpectedly, her foot slipped, and the shawl she was wearing snagged on the corner of a chair, revealing a huge, fleshy face. Most alarming of all were her 2 ears, as big and thin as a pig's, and her nose, round and bulbous with nostrils turned upward. Wajingza was startled and quickly stepped back 2 paces to avoid her. Everyone else was also shocked. At this moment, no one was paying attention to the gossip from before. All eyes were drawn to her appearance. A pig, Zhu Beiji, she cried out and covered her face, trying to speak, but all that came out of her mouth were snort snort, pig sounds. My face, snort snort, Mom, snort snort, Jiang Luan, this is all your fault, snort snort. She rushed at me in a breakdown, yanking off my top hat and veil. A stunningly beautiful face was revealed before everyone's eyes. Everyone couldn't help but gasp in amazement. Needless to say, Wajingza's eyes were practically glued to my face, unable to look away. 8. Impossible. The jealousy and hatred in Gu Yunchu's eyes had already turned into intense fear. This face of mine perfectly combines all the best features of both my dad and mom. Mom and Dad both widened their eyes, seeing traces of their younger selves in me. There was no doubt that I could not possibly be the nanny's child. Most importantly, compared with how I had looked when I first arrived at the Gu family, malnourished, gaunt, and sallow, by now, with adequate nutrition, my skin had become fair and soft, and my collagen was back. Her appearance was even more stunning than Gu Yunchu at her absolute peak. After quite a while, Dad finally came to his senses. It has to be said that sometimes the benefits brought by looks are enormous. My dad, who had always been as cold as ice to me, took one look at how I looked now and immediately told me to sit next to him. Then he said with a smile to everyone, there must have been some misunderstanding just now. Call the police directly. That video was definitely made by AI. Look at Anan, her eyes, eyebrows, and mouth. Doesn't she look like she was carved from the same mold as me? Dad, oink, oink. Gu Yunchu let out a heartrending pig-like squeal, and Mom felt so heartbroken that she hurriedly pulled her into her arms and comforted her. Under my father's instruction, the assistant took my mother and Gu Yunchu away from the banquet hall. Meanwhile, I sat next to my father the whole time, listening as he introduced this businessman and that tycoon. Even Wajingza's father, Guang, suggested that I go participate in the preliminary audition. Those people who had once looked at me with disgust were now non-stop with flattering words. Toward the end of the banquet, I went to the restroom to straighten my clothes and heard Gu Yunchu's sobbing coming from a stall. It must be that brat not properly applying her lip balm. Don't worry, Mom will think of another way. Stop crying, okay. Mom kept comforting her non-stop. Hearing this, the last sliver of hope I had for my biological mother was completely shattered. I returned to the banquet hall and maintained my image as the graceful, obedient daughter beside Dad, listening quietly from time to time and occasionally offering a few words of praise. Throughout the whole time, Wajingza kept looking at me, until the banquet finally ended. He came over and tried to add me on WeChat, only to be politely turned down by me. Once again, Dad could see Wajingza's disappointment, so with his encouragement, we finally added each other as friends. 2 days later, Dad called me to his office. In the office, he carefully asked about my grades and then quizzed me on a few questions. Hearing my answers, his brows relaxed more and more, and he couldn't help nodding again and again. Good, as expected of my own daughter. Keep working hard. Also, remember to maintain a good relationship with that boy from the Hua family. If Yun Chu is no longer useful, our Gu family will be relying on you. I smiled softly. Okay. Turning around, my expression remained unchanged. Just as I reached the downstairs living room, Gu Yun Chu couldn't help but jump out again. HNGH, don't think that just because you've gotten Dad's approval, everything is settled. I'm telling you, HNGH, am the only precious young lady of the Gu family. I made no comment. Before that, you should get your pig face treated first, or I'm afraid Dad won't recognize you as a member of the Gu family anymore. This sentence hit Gu Yun Chu right where it hurt. She hopped around, trying to raise her hand to hit me, but the moment she lifted it, she saw clearly that her hand had somehow turned into a pig's trotters. With a snort, she fainted on the spot. 9. A few days later, my adoptive mother disappeared without any warning. Just as I was frantic with worry, I received a phone call from my mother. Following her description, I went to the abandoned restaurant. As soon as I went in, I was knocked unconscious. When I woke up again, Mom and Gu Yun Chu were standing in front of me. One of them was holding a rope, and the other a small knife. Mom smiled eerily. I'm sorry, Anan, who told you not to obediently apply the lipstick. Now the only way to undo the backlash is to peel off your facial skin. Bear with it, okay? Hearing her gentle tone, I couldn't help but feel a chill run through me. I finally couldn't help asking, I'm your biological daughter, don't you have even the slightest feelings for me? Mom was a little stunned. Daughter, I only have one daughter, Yun Chu, she is my daughter. Mom kept mumbling non-stop. I was utterly disappointed. When I was little, my adoptive mother never let me call her mom. She said she was too old and should be grandma. Although she loved me very much, I still couldn't help imagining what my own mother would be like. Would she love me? No. Mom suddenly shook her head. Her eyes cleared for a moment, but quickly became blank again. I only have one daughter, Yun Chu. She is my only daughter, Gu Yun Chu urged. Mom, kill her quickly. What are you waiting for? Mom looked full of confusion and murmured, why would I kill her? My heart sank, and suddenly a bold guess sprang to mind. Could it be that Mom had been mind-controlled? Mom, I shouted loudly. Mom jolted, looking at the knife in her hand, her gaze shifting back and forth between me and Gu Yun Chu. Her expression changed from dazed to resolute, and then from resolute to confused. How could I ever? Gu Yun Chu grew anxious and frantically urged her on, even forcing Mom to take the knife and peel off my skin. As the cold blade of the knife drew closer and closer, I struggled relentlessly. Just then, tears suddenly welled up in Mom's eyes. She froze all at once, and with who knew how much effort, she controlled her own hand and instead stabbed Gu Yun Chu, who was beside her and kept squealing like a pig. Mom, you, blood spilled from Gu Yun Chu's mouth at the same time. A cry came from the doorway. Yun Chu, my daughter. It was that nanny, Wang Ma. She rushed over in a panic, falling and scrambling as she went, and held Gu Yun Chu in her arms, crying her heart out. Mom finally came to her senses, folding her arms and staring at Wang Ma coldly. So all of this was you? Mom looked at me with tears streaming down her face, drew a knife, and cut the rope binding me, then pulled me into her arms. Mom is sorry. Mom knows everything, but she can't control herself. It was Aunt Wang who switched out my memories through the clothes. Mom came back after being reborn just to save you. That's great. This rebirth wasn't in vain after all. I couldn't help but feel dazed as well, recalling all the strange things from our past life together. The concern Mom showed me in one moment, and the disgust and curses in the next. He always sends me money at irregular intervals, yet every time he tells me to get as far away as possible. I never expected that I had actually been protected by Mom with all her strength. For a moment, I couldn't hold back my tears. Suddenly, a dark figure walked over, raised a dagger high, and stabbed down at Mom. It was Wang Ma. At the critical moment, the door was kicked open from the outside. Wajingza led the way, followed by more than a dozen police officers holding guns, who filed in and surrounded Wang Ma. Wang Ma still tried to stab my mother to death first, but was immediately shot into a sieve by the police. The mother and daughter pair both died a miserable death. 10. My mother, my adoptive mother, and I were all taken to the hospital separately. It was only in the hospital bed that I learned the whole story. It turned out that in the 7th year after I was switched away, my mother learned that Gu Yun Chu was not her biological child, so she began searching everywhere for my whereabouts. My father, however, thought it didn't matter. He still had many other families outside, he just didn't dare bring them home. Because of my mother, the legitimate eldest daughter of the Gu family, whoever she may be, doesn't matter. As for the true heir, it can only be his precious sons. It was precisely to keep these outside women under wraps that Dad went to great lengths to find Wang Ma, who knew sorcery. He was fully aware of her swapping in a daughter, yet turned a blind eye to it. Mom could never let it go and kept making a fuss every day. So Dad signaled Wang Ma to erase Mom's memories. It wasn't until Gu Yunchu fell ill with a strange disease and had only 1 year left to live, Madame Wang took a desperate risk and found my whereabouts. In order to make me swap lives with Gu Yunchu, she specially made strawberry-flavored lip balm and set countless traps, all just so Gu Yunchu could fully recover and firmly hold on to the position of the Gu family's prized young lady. She succeeded again and again, until my mother and I were both reborn. And finally, through saving ourselves, saved each other. 3 days later, we were successfully discharged from the hospital. Mom suggested that my foster mother come home with us to stay. My foster mother rubbed her hands together a little nervously. That doesn't seem quite appropriate, does it? I still have pigs at home. Mom burst out laughing. Don't worry, our place is huge. I've already arranged for workers to rebuild the pigsty. From now on, whether you want to raise pigs or donkeys, just raise them. When we all returned home together, the piglet broke through the unfinished pigsty and ran wild in the living room, making Dad, Gu Lian, so angry that he kept shouting, "Get out, all of you, get out! What kind of family is this, acting like this? Is this the Gu family or a pigsty?" Mom shook her finger. "This isn't a pigsty, and it isn't the Gu family, it's my Su family," Gu Lian asked in confusion. "What do you mean?" Mom clapped her hands, and 2 sharply dressed lawyers stood behind her. "Hello, my name is Chi Fei. I'm the city's top divorce lawyer, Mr. Gu. Over the years you have had separate families in Jinyuan, Jiaonan, and Shuihua, and have raised 3 boys and 2 girls. Hello, Mr. Gu, I'm a financial lawyer. According to our investigation, over the years you have been continuously and illegally transferring company assets." Gu Lian's expression instantly panicked. "No, this is a misunderstanding, Xiaoya, this really is a misunderstanding. Listen to my explanation." Mom's smile faded as she said coldly, "Explain it to my lawyer." The day the verdict came down, Dad jumped to his death in fear of the charges. That afternoon, Wu Jingze found me and said he hoped to play the female lead. "In fact, long ago, when I saw you on the car carrying a load of pork, for some reason, that scene has stayed with me ever since and I can't shake it. Maybe it's because I've never seen a girl as strong as you, or maybe it's because you're very beautiful." After saying all that, what I really wanted to ask was, could I invite you to be the female lead in my work? I believe that with your looks and charm, you'd definitely become a huge hit. Looking at Wu Jingze's earnest expression, I slightly shook my head and ultimately turned him down. Not everyone expects to have a beautiful chemical reaction with the opposite sex, but from beginning to end, I was only most interested in biological science. After graduation, I went abroad to further my studies, and my adoptive mother and mom also came along to accompany me during my studies. During school breaks and in our free time, the 3 of us would travel together to all sorts of places. For the rest of my life, only my career and the women who love me matter most. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. Wedding anniversary. I returned home early from a business trip abroad, wanting to surprise my husband, but as soon as I entered the house, I heard ambiguous sounds coming from the bedroom. Furious, I rushed in, wanting to confront my husband, but upon opening the door, I only saw 2 dogs engaged in unspeakable acts. At the same time, my husband's WeChat message arrived. "Wife, don't go into the bedroom, there's a stray dog I've taken in, and I'm worried it might hurt you." I felt guilty, regretting my own suspicion. Suddenly, words appeared before my eyes. Fortunately, the male lead reacted quickly and used the system to exchange for 2 transformation pills, turning both himself and the female lead into dogs. Otherwise, how would he get the initial capital to turn his life around if Qin Jiaxing, the tigress, kicked him out? It was only then that I found out the 2 dogs were actually my husband and his mistress. Seeing the 2 of them entangled in affection, I laughed in anger and dialed the pet hospital's number. "Hello, I would like to schedule a sterilization surgery." When I saw the text appear out of thin air before my eyes, I couldn't help but be startled. Instinctively looking at the 2 dogs who were still reluctant to part, the text seemed to sense something and began to flutter wildly. It's so thrilling to do this under the watchful eye of the tigress. The male lead is almost dying of nervousness, yet he can't bear to part with the female lead. The nanny, TSK, this is true love, although, I really want to fast forward to the part where the male lead achieves success and the tigress begs him to spare her parents. I can't stand this kind of frustrating plot. Agreed, don't bully the poor young man. Words flashed one by one, and my heart grew increasingly alarmed. According to the comments, I am the cannon fodder ex-wife in a story of an underdog's rise to success. Using my family's wealth, I coerced and lured my husband, Lu Fan, who was destined for greatness, into marrying me, and I often humiliated him with money to get revenge. He endured humiliation and colluded with outsiders, gradually undermining my authority. By the time I realized what was happening, he had already, with the help of the system, become the de facto ruler of the company. When my parents found out about this, they were so angry that they fell seriously ill, on the verge of death. Lu Fan, however, threatened that any hospital that dared to admit them would be defying him. Desperate, I knelt before Lu Fan with my pregnant belly, begging him to spare my parents. Instead, he mocked me. Unable to bear it, I got into an argument with him. In the end, during the argument, I was pushed down the stairs, resulting in a tragic death of both me and my unborn child. Hastily concluding my story, and Lu Fan, this chosen one, seemed to have activated a cheat mode from then on. Not only did his career soar, but he also married the gentle and considerate female lead, Shen Weiwei, leading a fulfilling life where the home flag never falls and the colorful flags flutter outside. A bone-chilling coldness crept up my spine. I stared at these words, clenching my fists tightly, feeling utterly absurd. Did I coerce and entice him? It was clearly Lu Fan who pursued me ardently, proposing to be a son-in-law and even kneeling outside my family's villa for a full day and night before my parents finally agreed to the marriage. On our wedding day, he even swore that he would be good to me for a lifetime, or else let him be struck by lightning and have no descendants. If it weren't for the many details mentioned in the live comments that closely matched what had already happened, would never believe that the man who deeply loved me would secretly want to kill me. The bullet screen suddenly erupted into a frenzy again, interrupting my thoughts. Looking up, I saw the two dogs had changed their positions. So thrilling, the male lead is deliberately leading the female lead towards the tigress. Is this something we can watch for free? Good looking and enjoyable, but why hasn't the tigress left yet? The effect of the transformation pill only lasts for an hour. If the male lead turns back into human form in front of the tigress, everything will be ruined. Indeed, to be honest, without the tigress, would the male lead's luck alone be enough for the chosen one system to bind to him? Are you crazy? Do you even understand what a big male lead wish fulfillment story is, and what a chosen one is, not to mention being rich and powerful? Even if he were just a stray dog on the street, the system would arrange a cheat-enabled life for him. The bullet screen debate is heating up. After discerning the content of those words, my eyes flickered slightly, and I curled my lips into a cold smile. The chosen one, a man who rose to power by stepping on the bones of our entire family. What kind of chosen one is he? Today, I'm going to see for myself. Is he, the chosen one, more formidable, or is the blade at the pet hospital faster? Thinking of this, I immediately sent a WeChat message to my assistant. Only when the assistant came upstairs with the pet carrier did I deliberately raise my voice and send a voice message to Lu Fan. Honey, I've already seen them. They're so cute, so I plan to adopt both of them. However, that male dog seems to be in heat, so I plan to get him neutered today. As soon as these words were spoken, the movements of the two dogs came to a halt. The comments section also exploded. No way, that vicious woman, the she-tiger, actually wants to castrate the male lead. That's her husband. Don't worry, the male lead is the chosen one. Even if he's currently a dog, he'll definitely find a way to escape the clutches of that vicious woman. Exactly, even if no one comes to save him, isn't there still the system? That she-tiger is just a minor character. I don't believe she can cause much trouble. The bullet screen was filled with mockery. There are also a few who express concerns, although, who would have the protagonist of a big male lead story be a eunuch? If he really loses his manhood, will the system find another master, and can he still be the chosen one of destiny? That's right, there are countless people like Li Fan, Zhang Fan, and Wang Fan, but there's only one him. Once lost, it's truly lost. Lu Fan clearly saw these comments and immediately separated from Shen Weiwei. Evading the assistant's capture, I naturally didn't give him a chance to escape, immediately sandwiching him with my assistant and easily catching the pair of scoundrels inside the airline crate. Their wails echoed back and forth, as if I were some kind of dog abuser. The bullet screen kept scrolling, mostly cursing me for being vicious and eagerly anticipating Lu Fan's next move to turn the tables. The rest inadvertently translated the dog-like gibberish Lu Fan was shouting. The male lead's language is so filthy. There are 40 minutes left until he regains his human form, and he's already thinking about how to punish the tigress. Ha ha ha. The male lead is truly impressive. Picking a fight with the tigress not only earns him some money but also allows him to spend a few days of couple time with the female lead through a cold war. A win-win situation. I pretended not to see any of it. As soon as they arrived at the pet hospital, he immediately handed the airline crate to the doctor, urging him to expedite an appointment for a spaying surgery. However, just as the doctor was about to take Lu Fan into the operating room, the bullet screen, which had been quiet for a while, suddenly became lively. Here she comes. Luckily, the male lead system has communication capabilities, so he immediately contacted the female second lead, Lin Wanwan, who is interning at a pet hospital, to come to his rescue. Since the male lead sponsored her, the female second lead is deeply in love with him and would almost risk her own life for him. I'm curious to see how the she-tiger will manage to harm the male lead this time. Seeing these two comments, I couldn't help but sneer coldly. Funding. As far as I know, Lu Fan has never funded anyone. It's me who, in the name of Chin Group, has funded many struggling students. I guess Lu Fan secretly took all the credit for himself, which is why a naive girl is so devoted to him. Indeed, I just snapped out of my own thoughts when I saw a girl with a furious expression blocking my path. Apparently, she was Lin Wanwan, as mentioned in the comments. Is it you who wants to sterilize these two dogs? I don't agree. As soon as she said that, the comments were full of praise for her boldness. I am utterly speechless. Are all these bullet comments fake people? She suddenly popped up to say these things, not only serving no practical purpose, but also making people think she's crazy. Considering she hasn't caused me any actual harm yet, I maintained basic politeness for the time being and smiled, saying, "Excuse me, miss, what authority do you have to say those two sentences? These two dogs are mine, and as their owner, it is naturally my responsibility to take care of them." You must be a doctor at this hospital, right? How come, as a doctor, you don't know the consequences of not sterilizing pets? As soon as I said this, Lin Wanwan indeed stammered, her ears turning red. Seeing this, the bullet screen started to curse me for being aggressive and malicious. I took their curses as compliments to me, overbearing, proving my eloquence. This is one victory. Malicious in thought, proving my decisive actions. This is the second victory. They curse me, indicating they cannot do anything to me, only venting through words. This is the third victory. In conclusion, I have achieved a complete victory. Thinking of this, I felt much better. Seeing that Lin Wanwan hesitated for a long time without saying anything more, I didn't want to waste any more time with her and directly turned to the doctor. "Doctor, I have something else to do later. Please arrange the surgery immediately." The doctor nodded and took the pet carrier, but Lin Wanwan seemed to suddenly find a flaw in me and abruptly raised her head. "Wait, what evidence do you have to prove that these two dogs are yours? What if you're a dog abuser? Who will be responsible?" Hearing this, the doctor also became somewhat hesitant. Seeing this, Lin Wanwan became even more emboldened. Pointing at the pet carrier, she stood tall and said proudly, "If this is your dog, you must know their names, right? I'd like to see if you call them. Will they respond?" Of course, they won't, because these two dogs are actually Lu Fan and Shen Weiwei transformed. At such a critical moment, they wouldn't respond to me even if I asked. Lin Wanwan obviously knows this, which is why she dares to confront me. The bullet screen is even more heated because of this. Wow, this is top-level strategy, not to mention whether the tigress knows these two dogs are the male and female leads. Even if she does, just the fact that she wants to castrate the male lead means he would never respond to her. Is it the Heavenly Destiny Sun system kicking in? I knew it. How could the Heavenly Destiny Sun be easily turned into a eunuch? Seeing that they seemed to be convinced, I was at a loss. I couldn't help but curl my lips, looking at Lin Wanwan with a smile that wasn't quite a smile. "Are you sure that as long as they respond to me, it will prove that they are indeed my dogs?" Lin Wanwan nodded without hesitation. "Of course." I raised an eyebrow and asked again, "Are you sure?" The more I asked, the more confident Lin Wanwan became. She even turned the tables. "Madam, you wouldn't dare not to prove it, would you? If you don't dare, then I'll take these two dogs away." With that, she reached out towards the pet carrier. I shook my head and, with a smile, reached out to stop her. In her confident gaze, I cleared my throat. I shouted loudly towards the hospital lobby, "Cola, potato, 11, Wonkai." Immediately, several dogs, led by their owners, rushed towards me, wagging their tails as they looked at the dog. Snacks in my hand. Lin 11 clearly hadn't expected me to have this trick up my sleeve, and she froze on the spot. I casually patted the head of a golden retriever and smiled at her. "If what you say is true, and naming it makes it my dog, then all of these are considered my dogs." Dr. Lin, you just don't understand the basic principles of puppies. Also, I need to clarify something about myself. At this point, I put away my smile and looked at the stunned doctor beside me. "Doctor, which dog abuser would spend money to bring their dogs for sterilization specifically for their health?" As my words fell, Lin 11 blushed furiously and finally had nothing more to say. The few pet owners who had been watching the situation unfold spoke up one after another to defend me. "I've been watching for a while. What's going on with your hospital? Why are you falsely accusing someone of abusing dogs out of thin air? Do you know that a casual remark can mislead unsuspecting passersby and incite them to cyberbully her?" "Exactly. My 11 is usually very sensitive and timid. If this lady were truly a dog abuser, it would never be so close to her." "Is this what you, as pet doctors, do? I'm telling you, if you don't provide a solution for this lady today, I will post the truth about this incident online." The crowd was filled with righteous indignation, and Lin 11's face suddenly turned pale. The doctor finally realized what had happened and quickly apologized to me. "I'm sorry, ma'am, it was our mismanagement, and we will definitely give you a reasonable explanation later. To express our apology, how about I give you a 50% discount on the spaying fees for your 2 dogs?" Since my goal had been achieved, I naturally had no objections. After handing the airline crate to the doctor, she deliberately sighed and said, "Everyone brings their pets here out of trust in you. Such groundless accusations should not happen a second time. Moreover, these 2 dogs are strays I just adopted and haven't named yet." If it really came down to this doctor's identification method, I would be utterly unable to explain myself. "I hope you can improve in the future. If you can do that, I might consider establishing a foundation at your hospital." I funded donations to provide free treatment for stray animals, as a way to accumulate merit for my own dog. As I finished speaking, everyone looked at me with even more admiration. I humbly lowered my head, watching Lu Fan's impotent rage inside the pet carrier, feeling an indescribable sense of joy. "Didn't Lu Fan claim to be a stray dog? Since it's like this, he should thank me for helping him get neutered for free." The doctor was also quite excited and kept thanking me. He even patted his chest, assuring me that he would definitely send my dog out of the clinic safely. I smiled and nodded, watching Lu Fan being pushed into the operating room, then glanced down at the time. There are 40 minutes left before Lu Fan reverts to human form, and a surgery typically takes about 20 minutes. There's plenty of time. Seeing that the deed is done, the bullet screen goes completely wild, scrolling rapidly. No way, no way. Is the male lead really being pushed into the operating room like this? The doctor is administering anesthesia, and it's taking effect. So desperate. Is there really no way out? Where's the system? The system? Hurry up and save the male lead. If the male lead becomes a eunuch, what kind of chosen one is he? Don't panic, maybe the system is on its way. Didn't the second female lead just appear at the last moment? Barrages were in a heated debate. Finally, the barrage I had been most looking forward to appeared. No way, the doctor really picked up the knife. He's aiming at the male lead. The male lead The sentence came to an abrupt end. I felt a chill in my heart, immediately realizing that something had changed. Sure enough, another barrage of comments followed. Wait, the male lead's divine physician master is on his way. This master can bring the dead back to life and regenerate flesh. What's a mere broken bone? There's definitely still hope, a turnaround. Seeing this, I couldn't help but chuckle softly. Reviving the dead and regenerating flesh is indeed an extraordinary ability, but even the most skilled housewife finds it hard to cook without rice. I refuse to believe it. Without the original source, could that renowned doctor possibly create a new one for Lu Fan out of thin air? The surgery quickly concluded. Looking at the neatly sutured incision, I was extremely satisfied. Immediately expressed willingness to fund the establishment of a stray animal foundation. At this point, I deliberately glanced at Lin 11. Although I am not the type to seek revenge for every slight, I am also not a saint. She just went all out to slander me, so I naturally won't let her off the hook. Lin 11's face turned pale instantly. Clearly, she had guessed what was about to happen. The doctor understood my meaning and immediately voiced his stance. Thank you for your concern and care for stray animals. Regarding the slander against you, our hospital will not tolerate it either. With that, he looked at Lin Wanwan and said, Assistant Lin, we will pay you your wages for these days as usual, but starting tomorrow, you don't need to come in anymore. As soon as these words were spoken, the live chat exploded in shock, filled with curses directed at me. Cannon fodder is cannon fodder, not leaving any chance of survival for the little girl. Letting her live is simply a curse that lasts 1,000 years. Add 1, looking forward to the male lead waking up and taking revenge for the second female lead, giving the tigress a good lesson. 2 vicious, the little girl just said a few words. Is it really necessary? Watching the comments about me in the live chat, I curl my lips into a faint smile. Can't handle it already. Even more vicious is yet to come. Sure enough, as soon as Lin Wanwan left in a daze, the doctor asked me, Ma'am, would you like to take home the remains from your pet spaying as a keepsake? If needed, our hospital can help you process it for free. No. Before the doctor could finish, I chuckled softly and shook my head to decline. My dog is quite open-minded and won't care about a lifeless object, so, just treat it as medical waste. The barrage was silent for a few seconds, then, a wave of devastated men exploded. What? She actually doesn't want it? Ah, the male lead is incomplete. Where did the master go? If he arrives before the male lead turns back into a human form, maybe he can still be turned back into a man. Otherwise, when the time comes, even if we manage to retrieve the parts of the male lead that were cut off, they will never be restored. Oh, is there such a risk? Seeing the comments in the live chat, my eyes narrowed quickly. While they weren't paying attention, I changed my mind and demanded the return of the parts that were cut off from Lufan. Then I casually tossed it into the trash can at the hospital entrance. Watching the garbage truck drive away, I couldn't help but smirk with a sense of schadenfreude. At that exact moment, Lu Fan also happened to open his eyes. It was unclear whether it was due to his innate talent or the influence of his system. In summary, he quickly regained consciousness. It seemed that upon feeling his empty lower body, he let out a piercing wail, immediately drawing the attention of a woman not far away. It was his divine physician master, Enrong. Being a few years older than Lin Wanwan, Enrong's approach was much more normal. She took the initiative to strike up a conversation with me, claiming that she also had a pet, although her eyes kept glancing towards Lu Fan. Overall, her approach did indeed make it easier for people to lower their guard. I held back my laughter, and seeing that the time was about right, I used the excuse of going to the restroom to entrust Lu Fan to Enrong. Seeing this, the live chat finally breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay, there are still 10 minutes left, it's still in time. Master is so strong. Kicking open the door of the operating room with one foot, the doctors haven't even reacted yet, and she's already found what she needed and left. Is this the legendary divine doctor? It's sewn up in less than 5 minutes, looking forward to the male lead slapping the face of the cannon fodder ex-wife. Seeing these words, I finally couldn't help it and chuckled out loud. Slap in the face. Let's see if Lu Fan can accept the fact that he's been given a dog's organ after he wakes up. Not long after, the dog like Lu Fan, in Enrong's car, slowly regained consciousness once again. At the same time, the police and the furious dog owner arrived. Seeing Enrong, the dog owner immediately shouted loudly, pointing at her, Officer, it's her. Just now, the doctor was performing sterilization on my Chu Shi, and she rushed in and snatched Chu Shi's testicles. The more he spoke, the more wronged he felt. In the end, the burly man, who was about 1.8 meters tall, started wiping away tears. Dogs also have rights. Why is she doing this? Woo woo woo, my dog Chu Shi is incomplete now. These words were truly shocking, and passers-by stopped in their tracks. Some sharp-tongued individuals had already started pointing fingers. TSK. I've seen a lot of strange things, but this is the first time I've seen someone stealing a pet's organs. Could it be a dog abuser? If it really is, we definitely can't let her off. People who abuse animals are all dangerous antisocial elements. And Rong was completely stunned before she could figure out why a pet owner suddenly appeared, accusing her of stealing his pet's organs. Her face turned red and pale under the surrounding comments. After holding it in for a long time, she couldn't come up with any explanation and could only weakly retort, "You're slandering me with false accusations." This statement was too weak to be convincing, and passers-by began to defend the dog owner. "Miss, you don't seem like a bad person. Just let the police check your car. If it's really a misunderstanding, we'll all help you." "Exactly, the police are right here. If he dares to slander you, no one will let him off." and Rong's face turned pale, and she bit her lip tightly, glancing at the back seat of the car. Seeing that Lufan hadn't changed back into human form yet, she could only muster the strength to refuse the inspection. Why should I? Whoever makes a claim must provide evidence. You should prove that I stole your dog's organs, not the other way around. The dog owner was momentarily speechless. Coincidentally, a nurse from the hospital rushed over at that moment, providing a timely assist. Officer, sir, the surveillance footage has been retrieved. Speaking, she held her phone screen up to the police officer's eyes, after confirming that the person who rushed into the operating room was indeed Rong. The police finally spoke. Ma'am, your actions have involved damaging other people's property. Please cooperate with the inspection. Seeing this, Rong had no more room to argue, still blocking the door, refusing to let the police come any closer. Seeing that the climax of this scene has arrived, I finally reappeared, walking straight towards Rong. Missin, I'm back. Thank you so much. I was worried about my dog catching a draft after its sterilization surgery, and you even let it get in the car. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned, and Rong was the first to regain her composure and quickly smiled at me. It's no problem, I have pets at home too, so this is something I should do. I didn't give Rong a chance to finish her sentence. Taking advantage of her moment of relaxation, I timed it perfectly and directly opened the back door of the car. I'm taking it back with me. If you're free, we can walk it together. Honey, why are you here? After saying that, I slumped to the ground as if struck, just in time to give the police and onlookers a clear view of the car's interior. Just one glance, the crowd gasped in shock. In the back seat sat a stark naked man. His lower body was still oozing blood. The original organs had long since disappeared. In their place was an organ belonging to a dog. The pet owner was the first to react, his eyes red with rage as he prepared to fight the two of them. You two perverts who experiment with dog organs. I'm going to fight you to the death. Lu Fan panicked and hastily dodged, but accidentally pressed on the still bleeding wound, causing him to scream in pain and faint dead away. The scene descended into chaos. The barrage is also confused. No way, the third female lead, the divine doctor, actually messed up. Isn't she supposed to be able to revive the dead and regenerate flesh? Add 1. Could it be that the time cutoff was too long, and it can't be reattached? Wait, didn't you all hear what the pet owner said? He said that the third female lead rushed in and snatched the eggs of his pet. So, dizzy, the third female lead went to such great lengths, yet she got the wrong thing and brought back a dog's toy. Don't worry about that for now. The male lead just accidentally pressed on his wound himself, and now there's massive bleeding. He might not even be able to keep the dog's toy. What is this? Who has a lead character in a big male protagonist story who is a eunuch? Don't rush. Isn't there still a system? Once the male lead fully gains the recognition of the Heavenly Destiny system, growing another one shouldn't be difficult, right? The problem is, he might not make it to that day. When he was just sent to the ambulance, the she-tiger was already on the phone with a lawyer. What? Don't bully the poor young man. Hee. The male lead is at most a, don't bully the middle-aged poor. There's more to come. Don't bully the elderly poor, and respect the dead. Ha ha ha. The person above spoke my mind. I've been wanting to say it. Is there something wrong with this male lead? He begged all day to get the chance to marry into the family, but outside, he claims the female lead forced herself on him. If you want to fool others, that's fine, but don't fool yourself. Wait, did he voluntarily marry into the family? Damn, that's too shocking. I'm dropping this story. Add 1. I thought he was really some inspirational loser. No way. Did he even trick the system? The chosen one system just unbound from him and went to find a new master. You're saying that, and now I'm not leaving. I want to see who the next chosen one is. A flood of text passed by, making my eyes hurt. In a trance, unfamiliar yet familiar scenes flashed before my eyes one after another. The scene froze at the moment I tumbled down the stairs, then, it began to rewind at lightning speed. Finally, it stopped at this very moment. At the same time, a voice rang in my ears. Congratulations, host, your luck value has reached 99%, giving you the opportunity to bind with the Child of Fortune system. Would you like to proceed with the binding? Seeing the bullet comments start to fill with curses again, I immediately understood that the binding system was in my favor, so I immediately nodded without hesitation. I do. As soon as the words fell, the barrage of comments was instantly cleared. The system's voice also sounded immediately. The system is clearing the cache of failed copies. Clearing successful. Congratulations on successful binding. A new copy will soon open, dominating Wall Street. Does the host accept? I nodded and chose to accept, not just because of the luck system, more so because I am convinced that the future is more in our own hands than entirely relying on external forces. For a long time after that, I never saw Lu Fan again, until one day, I suddenly saw 2 more comments. It's been a long time since I've been here. I suddenly remembered and went through the trouble of crossing the wall to take a look. I didn't expect the male lead to die so tragically. It really came true. How poignant. Look at her ex-sister-in-law. She deserves it. Giving this system to her isn't a waste at all. Seeing the fleeting bullet screen, I was stunned. Only then did I notice the news popping up on my phone. The former son-in-law of the Chen group drowned in a lake, struck by lightning, with insiders claiming he seemed mentally unstable. Watching Lu Fan's outcome, I felt no waves of emotion within me. From the moment he cheated, he didn't deserve even a shred of space in my heart. Over the years, I have devoted myself entirely to my career. Initially, my parents wanted me to remarry, but seeing my firm stance, they chose to support my decision. With my parents' support and my relentless efforts, within just 3 years, our family company went public on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. This made me a notable figure in my circle, often the subject of lively discussions. When others mention me, few remember my failed marriage or my ex-husband who made scandals public knowledge. They only marvel at my exceptional abilities and envy my young age at which I made it onto the global rich list. The system of fortune's child never left me. I don't believe that there is no one in this world with better fortune than me. Its choice to stay by my side proves a truth. Fortune never belongs to those who seek to enjoy its fruits without effort. It belongs to every struggling self. As long as you strive, it is there. Lu Fan's Extra. My name is Lu Fan, and I am the son-in-law of the Chen group. I really dislike this title, but Chen Jiaxing can offer me so much that enduring humiliation is nothing. I had thought I would just live out my life in idleness, until one day, the system of fortune found me. It asked me if I wanted to be the leading man of this world. Is there such a good thing? I immediately agreed. With the help of the luck system, I quickly succeeded in several projects that I had previously failed to accomplish. Convinced that it would truly bring me good fortune, I felt a bit lightheaded, even going so far as to open a portal to another world on my own. Listening to their praise and envisioning the future they described for me, my confidence soared. What is Chen Jiaxing compared to me? Don't look down on the poor youth. In the future, I will become the CEO of Lu Corp. Thinking this, I opened a bottle of champagne halfway through the game. I secretly communicated with her family's little nanny, contacted the girls sponsored by the Chen family, and sought the tutelage of a divine doctor under the name of the Chen family. But am I not the chosen one of fortune? Why would Chen Jiaxing know that the dog was me? Why was I taken to be castrated? Why do all the women who get close to me end up so unlucky? There is also the system of fortune's child. Why did it leave me? A terrifying thought crossed my mind, one I was unwilling to believe, still causing trouble everywhere. Trying to prove that I truly am the child of fortune, but Chen Jiaxing divorced me, and no one is buying my act anymore. Soon, after owing tens of thousands in alcohol debts, I was brutally beaten and ended up in jail. After several such incidents, I spent most of my life in a haze of confusion, until that day, I saw Chen Jiaxing on a large screen in the shopping mall. The host praised her as the chosen one of fortune, but she smiled and shook her head to deny it. Anger clouded my mind. I cursed at the screen in a fit of rage, only to be thrown out of the mall by security. Snowflakes swirled around me, and I shivered from the cold. The jeers of a few drunkards echoed in my ears, calling me a eunuch, a man without roots, someone who couldn't even enjoy good fortune. Bold, I am the chosen one of fortune. My eyes turned red with anger, and suddenly I remembered some novel plots. Without hesitation, I jumped into the lake amidst their screams. Before I closed my eyes, I was still smugly thinking, when I'm reborn, I must teach these ungrateful wretches a lesson. However, even as I was on the verge of losing consciousness, there was no sign of rebirth. I panicked and started struggling with all my might, but a loud thunder struck. In a daze, I suddenly remembered the vows I made at the wedding. If I betrayed Chen Jiaxing, may I be struck by lightning and have no descendants. Who would have thought? It actually came true. Another bolt of lightning struck. I was completely drained of strength, finally realizing, perhaps I can't be reborn. But how could that be? I don't believe it. I am the chosen one of fortune, the chosen one of fortune. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. Reborn. On the day my parents threw a grand celebration for my college admission, this time, seeing the fallen young master Lu Yenzhou being humiliated, I stopped my parents from stepping forward to help. In my previous life, my parents and I couldn't stand by, not only helping Lu Yenzhou but also sponsoring him to return to school and continue his education. In just a few years, Lu Yenzhou graduated, successfully started his own business, and achieved career success. My parents and I were very pleased, only hoping that he could become a useful member of society in the future. However, he fell in love with Meng Xiaoqing, who saved his life in an accident. After learning that Meng Xiaoqing had a grudge against my family, Lu Yenzhou did not hesitate to help her seek revenge. When the Xing family went bankrupt and was forced to kneel before Meng Xiaoqing, I once questioned Lu Yenzhou, "My family helped you so much, why are you repaying kindness with enmity?" Lu Yenzhou looked down at me from above, his eyes cold. "The Xing family did indeed do me a favor, but those favors are nothing compared to Qing'er's life-saving grace. In other words, even if it weren't you, someone else would have helped me." He replaced Meng Xiaoqing and trampled my Xing family into the mud. This time, I want to see what kind-hearted people he can encounter without our help. I never expected that the young master of the Lu family would be working as a doorman here. What Lu family heir? The Lu family went bankrupt long ago, and he's just a pauper now. A few arrogant young heirs from prominent families chimed in, belittling Lu Yenzhou in unison. One particularly bold one, seeing that Lu Yenzhou remained silent, even took a glass of red wine from a nearby table and maliciously splashed it all over Lu Yenzhou. Drenched in wine and utterly disheveled, Lu Yenzhou finally looked up. His fair and handsome face was covered in red wine, his dark eyes fixed intently on the person. Unfathomable. I carefully observed Lu Yenzhou's expression. My parents, who had been stopped by me, were puzzled and leaned in to whisper to me, "Where, usually when something like this happens, you'd rush to help right away. What's different today?" As she spoke, my mother glanced at Lu Yenzhou out of the corner of her eye, slightly worried, remained calm and spoke coldly. "Mom and Dad, your daughter recently learned a lesson called respecting others' fates. The Lu Corporation was targeted and went bankrupt, and Lu Yenzhou's current predicament seems to be the result of deliberate targeting. I think this is a muddy situation, and it's better for us to stay far away from it." Mom and Dad were so focused on helping that they probably didn't have time to consider these points. They paused for a moment after I finished speaking. Then, my father spoke cautiously. "Where is right. If the situation is really complicated, it's not just a matter of helping out." My mother glanced at Lu Yenzhou a few times out of the corner of her eye, her expression filled with pity, but she closed her mouth and said nothing more. Just as I was about to say something, urging my parents to stay far away from Lu Yenzhou in the future, someone suddenly walked over, as if unable to stand it any longer, and urged my parents, "Mr. Sheng, Mrs. Sheng, today is after all your daughter's celebration for her university admission. Carrying on like this won't leave a good impression on anyone. Little Lu is quite pitiful. You've always been kind-hearted, so if you can help, please do. It would also be a good deed." Seeing the indifference and hypocrisy in the visitor's eyes, I smirked coldly and sighed, and my smile faded on the surface. The Xing family is a prominent household in this city. Logically, those who follow my parents for some benefits shouldn't have the audacity to point fingers, but some people have always liked to push their luck. Once they are given a kind look, they feel they are very capable and even want to dominate. My parents have a good temperament and have done a lot of charity work over the years. They are also gentle in dealing with people. In the past, I was just like them. Whenever I encountered someone in need, I would always rush to help first, and only later did I think about whether it would cause trouble. But after my previous life, my personality has already changed. I said with a fake smile, "Uncle Chen, you're joking. The Lu family has offended someone. If we were to help now, wouldn't that be clearly inviting trouble for ourselves? My parents are kind-hearted and like to help others, but we wouldn't carelessly get involved in other people's troubles." My words hinted at the ill intentions of the Chen family. Mr. Chen's expression changed slightly, and he was about to explain. "Xiaoya." My father was the first to react, his eyes slightly darkening. "Today is my daughter's graduation banquet. I don't want to cause any trouble for our family on such an important occasion." My father's personality is good, but since I am the only daughter in the family, he dotes on me a lot and cares deeply about my thoughts. After thinking for a moment, my dad called over his assistant and instructed him to remember those few young masters who were causing trouble regardless of the occasion, so as to reduce future cooperation with their families. Then, he had someone go over to deliver a message. "Just say that today is an important moment in my little lady's life, and if they have other matters to attend to, they can leave ahead of time." Standing beside my dad, I could see Chen Zong sweating profusely and looking panicked. The few troublemakers over there also saw the change in the faces of the young masters causing a ruckus, and quickly stopped their actions. Lu Yenzhou, who had been pushed to the ground in a disheveled state, remained silent with his head down. Upon hearing his assistant's words, he suddenly looked up, his gaze directly meeting mine. His eyes were deep, devoid of the humiliation, hatred, and endurance that should have been present in an 18-year-old Lu Yenzhou. There was only a calm stillness. If I couldn't be sure before, then I can now confirm that Lu Yenzhou has also been reborn. He was reborn into a time when the Lu family had just gone bankrupt. His parents had fallen ill and passed away, marking the darkest period of his life. In my previous life, it was hearing about Lu Yenzhou's tragic circumstances that moved me to help him, unable to bear the thought of him being admitted to the same prestigious university as me but unable to afford tuition. I followed my parents to assist him. Later on, I resolved many troubles for Lu Yenzhou, allowing him to enjoy 4 peaceful and beautiful years of campus life during his lowest point. Thinking of this, my gaze grew colder, and I returned his stare with indifference. Since you're back, endure the suffering you were meant to face properly. The graduation celebration proceeded as usual. After my parents happily spoke a few words, they urged me to speak. I stepped up to the stage, spoke a few words confidently, and then toasted everyone. The banquet went smoothly, with congratulations being exchanged and business deals being discussed. Only Lu Yenzhou, sprawled in the corner, was ignored by everyone, his cold eyes scanning the surroundings before finally landing on me. His previously calm eyes now carried a hint of anger, his hands tightly clenched as he struggled to his feet and limped out. I glanced at him and then looked away. Lu Yenzhou was proud by nature. He hadn't lost his temper earlier only because he couldn't match those young masters from noble families, but he was already planning his revenge. He turned around and left now, likely going to resign, having been a successful big boss. Pursued and flattered, why would he be willing to continue working here after being reborn? I didn't think further. After the banquet, I got into the car with my parents. Just as the car was about to start, a familiar person was suddenly thrown out of the side door of the hotel. Lu Yenzhou's face was covered in bruises, and there were several shoe marks on his body. The person who threw him out was cursing. It's a favor to let you come to work, and you're not even willing to do it. What do you think you are? If you're not willing to work, then get lost. The man cursed and threw a few bills onto the ground, even stomping on them for added humiliation. The commotion was too loud, drawing the attention of those young masters who already disliked Lu Yenzhou. Yo, looks like Lu the young master isn't doing so well these days. Anyone can step on him now. How about this? If you kneel down and kowtow to me a few times, then bark like a dog, I'll let you be my lackey and save you from starving to death. My mother frowned deeply as she watched. These scoundrels are really going too far. Seeing the reluctance in her eyes, I immediately perked up, afraid that my mother might privately take pity and help Lu Yenzhou. Mom, some people are truly pitiful, but when it comes to Lu Yenzhou, I can only say that the pitiful often have their own reasons to be hated. He's not the kind of person who repays kindness with gratitude. We must keep our distance from him to avoid being entangled. My father turned to look at me, and after a long while, he spoke. Yue, why are you so repulsed by Lu Yenzhou? I don't remember our family having any interactions with the Lu family in the past. Did he offend you before? My mother, having turned her gaze away from the humiliated Lu Yenzhou, looked over as well. Yes, Mom was just about to ask you if you had a conflict with him before. Otherwise, with your previous personality, you would never just stand by and watch someone being bullied. I know that at a time like this, I definitely need to come up with a good reason to keep my parents from feeling sorry for Lu Yenzhou. After straining my brain to think about what happened in my previous life, I suddenly remembered something and snorted coldly, saying, we are from the same school. Even when the Lu family was still around, Lu Yenzhou's personality wasn't great. I remember once when a poor student accidentally bumped into him, he not only refused to accept the apology but also splashed hot soup all over the person's face, causing burns. I specifically inquired, and the two of them were completely strangers before this. And there's more, there was a girl at school who wrote him a love letter, saying that no matter whether he agreed or not, she wished him peace and health, and a happy and prosperous future. Instead of responding, he posted the letter on the bulletin board and even wrote, ugly women are always troublemakers on it, forcing the girl to transfer schools. Mom and Dad, our family does good deeds to help truly unfortunate people live a normal life. We can't just help anyone, we might end up aiding a social parasite. Mom and Dad were silent for a moment before nodding in agreement. "You're is right, our intention was to help those who are truly pitiful," my father said, looking at me with a sense of pride. My mother sighed. "The Lou boy is indeed pitiful now. But relying on strength to bully the weak and using power to oppress others are not qualities of someone worth helping." Seeing that my parents' impression of Lu Yenzhou had soured, I immediately felt relieved, knowing they wouldn't help him like they did in my previous life. Fortunately, I thoroughly investigated before almost tearing my face off with Lu Yenzhou in my previous life, realizing how despicable he was. As the car started to head home, Lu Yenzhou, forced to kneel on the ground, looked up and suddenly broke free from those holding him. Running towards us, with a bruised and battered face, Lu Yenzhou chased after the car for a long time, eventually falling to the ground, his eyes filled with confusion and disbelief. Through the rearview mirror, I could see those noble young men catch up to him, shouting insults and beating him up. Seeing Lu Yenzhou being beaten to the point of covering his head with his hands and contorting his face, I suddenly remembered my past life. Back then, when I was forced to kneel before Meng Xiaoqing, I felt just as helpless and resentful. Now, that pent-up resentment has finally been released. Returning home with my parents, I found someone kneeling at the front door. Meng Xiaoqing's delicate face was streaked with tears, looking utterly pitiful. I felt an instant surge of impatience and annoyance upon seeing her. My parents also frowned deeply, their eyes clearly unwelcoming. The bodyguards helped us out of the car, and as soon as Meng Xiaoqing, who was kneeling at the door, heard the commotion, she immediately staggered to her feet and ran over. Even though the bodyguards prevented her from getting close, she didn't give up, crying out loudly, "Uncle Sheng, Auntie Sheng, I know it was my parents who made the mistake, which is why you called the police, but they were just momentarily confused. If it weren't for someone tempting them with money, they definitely wouldn't have done something like this. I beg you, please, for the sake of all these years of affection, let them go." Meng Xiaoqing's eyelids were swollen from crying, and at the end, she even knocked her head on the ground several times. My father, with a stern face, ordered the bodyguards to stop her actions and said coldly, "Xiaoqing, you should know that your parents have made a grave mistake this time, and they could go to jail. Even if you come to beg us, it won't do any good." My mother frowned, though angry. Her eyes showed some hesitation. A flash of resentment quickly passed through Meng Xiaoqing's eyes, and I was watching her closely. Seeing it clearly, I had intended to say something, but when I turned my head and saw the wavering and reluctance in my mother's eyes, I closed my mouth again. Meng Xiaoqing hated the Xing family, wishing that our entire family would die, something I only realized when I was trampled under her feet in my previous life. For my mother now, Meng Xiaoqing is just a child she watched grow up, who has come to plead for her parents after discovering their mistakes. At this moment, it's better to stay silent and let her see Meng Xiaoqing's true nature later. I stood to the side, watching coldly. Meng Xiaoqing, pulled up by the bodyguard, quickly suppressed the resentment in her eyes and looked at my parents pitifully. "Uncle and Auntie, in my memory, you are the most capable. Now, I'm afraid only you can save my parents. I know that stealing company confidential documents is a grave crime, unforgivable. Xiaoqing doesn't have the audacity to ask for your forgiveness, but they are, after all, my parents. I can't just watch them go to jail." Meng Xiaoqing's forehead was red from kowtowing, and he said earnestly, "Consider this my plea, let them off this once. After they are released, Xiaoqing will return everything the family has gained from the Xing family over the years, and then take them back to our rural hometown, never allowing them to be an eyesore again." Meng Xiaoqing spoke with such sincerity that even my father fell silent. I sneered coldly in my heart. In my previous life, Meng Xiaoqing had said the same things. She begged for mercy using nearly 20 years of affection, and my parents, moved by her plea, agreed. But as soon as her parents were released, their entire family fled abroad overnight with the money they had obtained from the Xing family. This whole family not only refused to take responsibility for their choices but also exploited others' kindness, utterly despicable. When I sensed my mother was about to speak, I suddenly spoke coldly. "Meng Xiaoqing, I remember all your family's assets are under your name. If you truly wanted to give up all your money to ensure your parents' safety, why wait until they're released to do so?" My mother looked puzzled, as if she didn't understand the difference between the two. My father, however, stared at Meng Xiaoqing, his gaze suddenly sharp, and his softness vanished. Meng Xiaoqing was completely stunned, as if she hadn't expected me to suddenly say these things. She hadn't prepared for such a response and stammered when she spoke again, "Sister Lingyue, I was just too anxious and didn't think it through." the Xing family is wealthy and influential, and Uncle Sheng and Aunt Sheng are kind-hearted. I didn't think you would care about this. It was my oversight. The words you just said to plead for your parents were particularly moving, and it was clear that you had thought about them beforehand. Now, as I raise objections on the spot, the words from Meng Xiaoqing immediately provoked dissatisfaction from my parents. My father snorted coldly, his expression hard. What you're saying is that my precious daughter isn't kind-hearted and is deliberately making things difficult for you. My mother's eyes showed no softness either, as she fiercely defended her child against her. Meng Xiaoqing, it was your parents' fault for stealing the company's confidential documents. If you want us to let them off, you naturally have to show some sincerity. Today it was your oversight, so why are you implying that my daughter isn't kind enough? I think our family is just too easygoing. Which is why your parents thought betraying us wouldn't come with any consequences. Meng Xiaoqing's eyes were filled with shock, and she was completely stunned when she saw my parents angry and planning to drive her away. She immediately knelt down with a thud, kowtowed again to beg for forgiveness, her voice filled with panic. Uncle, Auntie, I really didn't mean it. It's my fault for speaking without thinking. I was wrong. Please don't be angry. I'll go back tomorrow. No, I can go back now to prepare everything Sister Lingyue mentioned. I'll definitely make Sister Lingyue satisfied. I remained unmoved. The more pitiful Meng Xiaoqing's crying became, the more vividly I could recall how arrogantly she had treated me after climbing into Lu Yenzhou's favor in my previous life. Only after she finished her pleading in tears did I smirk and pick a flaw. You were the one who wanted to beg for your parents. So why has it now turned into needing my satisfaction? It sounds as if I'm deliberately making things difficult for you. Meng Xiaoqing's eyes widened abruptly as she looked at me, her mouth agape as if someone had grabbed her by the throat. Unable to speak for a long time, the current Meng Xiaoqing is just a high school graduate of the same age as me, and even if she tries to control herself, she can't suppress all the hatred. A few seconds later, she clenched her teeth, glaring at me with a mix of resentment and unwillingness. My parents immediately darkened their faces and called the bodyguards to throw her out of the villa area. Everyone must be responsible for their own choices. Since your parents betrayed the Xing family for money back then, it's only right that they pay the price now. With a cold tone, my father spoke these words, his eyes filled with disgust. The bodyguard dragged the crying Meng Xiaoqing out, as she continued to plead through her tears. Seeing that my parents remained unmoved, she immediately revealed her true nature, shouting curses at the top of her lungs. You Xing family members are so hypocritical. You clearly don't want to let go of my parents, yet you just stood by and watched me beg for so long. If my parents hadn't come to work for the Xing family, they wouldn't have been targeted and tempted, and they wouldn't be in this situation today. I hate you. You all deserve to die. Meng Xiaoqing cursed without holding back, and my father's face grew increasingly grim. My mother sneered, as if mocking her own momentary weakness. So this is what the Meng family has always thought all these years. I stepped forward to comfort her. Mom, don't be sad. It's better to see through the true nature of the Meng family at this time, so as not to grieve over them anymore. Pulling my parents back home, my phone suddenly rang a few times. I didn't pay attention and only picked up my phone to check the messages after taking a shower upstairs. When I opened it, it was from an unfamiliar number. Xing Lingyue, if you have any grievances, you can vent them on me. Don't cause trouble for Qing'er. Qing'er is just an innocent little girl. It's obvious that this was sent by Lu Yenzhou. I couldn't help but laugh. Even after being beaten like that, Lu Yenzhou still has a bunch of troubles waiting for him. At such a time, instead of quickly resolving his own troubles, he still had the leisure to worry about Meng Xiaoqing. He truly is deep in emotion. I clicked my tongue twice, my eyes slightly cold, as I muttered to myself, this act of saving a life is indeed extraordinary. After pondering for a moment, I replied with a wicked smile, does young Master Lu still have the time to worry about others? The debt collectors are probably about to come knocking at the door. The message had just been sent when it was instantly replied to, the words brimming with an uncontainable fury. Xing Lingyue, don't get too smug. Once I succeed, the first one I won't let off is the Xing family. Idiot, I cursed directly. Feeling that Lu Yenzhou had come back to life without bringing his brain, does he still think he's the Lu Zong from his past life who succeeded in business and was adored by everyone? He's now just a nobody, a maggot trampled into the mud by debt collectors. Forget about going to school and saving money to start a business in the future. He can't even afford to eat now. In this situation, I don't even have the slightest urge to step on him again. Too lazy to reply again, I just blocked them and made Plans with a few close girlfriends to relax properly tomorrow. In my previous life, I put in a lot of effort to help Lu Yenzhou, all just to get him away from debt collectors and allow him to study at school smoothly. For this, I cancelled plans with friends and found him a place to live with low rent but a good environment, all while considering his pride. Now, looking back, I was so naive in my youth. Sacrificing my own time and energy to help others. I'm so young and have a bright future ahead of me. I should be enjoying life with my friends instead of playing the savior. After making plans with my girlfriends, I put on a face mask and went to bed beautifully. The next morning, I got up early, did my makeup, and had the driver take me out. After a day of fun, I went with my girlfriends to a high-end club where many of my classmates were. Greeted upon entering, sat down, and a not-so-familiar classmate came over to say, "Last night, Lu Yenzhou suddenly messaged me, asking to borrow money, and he asked for 1 million right away. Did you guys get the message?" I raised my eyebrows in surprise, not expecting Lu Yenzhou to humbly ask former classmates for money, and shook my head on the surface. Then, I was even more astonished to discover that, apart from me, everyone present had received a borrowing message from Lu Yenzhou. Seeing so many people nod, the male classmate smirked disdainfully and continued speaking. "He really has the nerve to ask. His family's bankrupt, and he's already deep in debt. Who in their right mind would lend him money just to throw it away?" Someone chimed in loudly, "Exactly, not only does he not know his current standing, but he also boasts about paying back double once he makes money. It's hilarious." Everyone laughed at Lu Yenzhou, when suddenly a voice rang out from a corner. "No one among you agreed, right?" I turned my head toward the voice. He had a crew cut, a rugged appearance, and fierce eyes. He was Cheng Yu, who had suddenly transferred in during the second semester of senior year. I heard he was quite intimidating. As his words fell, the room fell silent for a moment, then replies began to echo continuously. "Of course not, we're not stupid." Cheng Yu let out an unprovoked laugh, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Not agreeing is just as well. I was thinking of inviting him over to have some fun together." This expression clearly showed that he had a grudge against Lu Yenzhou. If Lu Yenzhou comes over, he's definitely going to get into big trouble. I'm happy to see him in trouble, so I smile and drink, waiting for him to arrive. Lu Yenzhou pushed open the door to the private room and entered, immediately furrowing his brows upon seeing the full room of people. Cheng Yu raised his hand and called out to him, "Come in, what are you standing at the door for?" Lu Yenzhou eventually stepped in under everyone's gaze. His gaze swept past me as he walked straight to Cheng Yu and said in a low voice, "Mr. Cheng, you said before coming here that as long as I drink 3 cups of wine, the 1 million will be mine. I wonder if that still stands." Cheng Yu stared at him, casually nodding to have someone pour 3 shots of strong liquor for Lu Yenzhou. "Of course it counts." Lu Yenzhou, under the amused gazes of those around him, picked up the drinks on the table and downed them one by one. After 3 shots, his face was flushed from the burn, his eyes filled with suppressed humiliation. He slammed the glass down heavily and spoke in a hoarse voice, "The drinks are finished. Mr. Cheng, it's time for you to pay up." Cheng Yu raised an eyebrow with ill intent, his gaze filled with disgust and hostility. "You think I'll just give it to you because you say so? Who the hell do you think you are?" As his words fell, a few male classmates couldn't help but laugh out loud. Lu Yenzhou's face darkened, his eyes fixed firmly on Cheng Yu. "You promised beforehand, that's why I came." Cheng Yu let out an impatient "tch." "Who said that agreeing means you have to follow through?" I quietly watched with my glass of wine, and only now did Lu Yenzhou, this fool, realize that Cheng Yu was toying with him. He instantly clenched his fist, his face darkening as he swung at Cheng Yu. "How dare you play?" Before he could finish, Cheng Yu kicked him hard, sending him flying with a scream and crashing to the ground. My eyelids twitched heavily. I didn't expect Cheng Yu to kick so hard. The other classmates hadn't expected things to turn out like this either. They were all 18 or 19-year-old kids, startled, and quickly tried to persuade Cheng Yu not to take things so seriously with someone like Lu Yenzhou, but Cheng Yu's face was dark, and he didn't respond or take the hint. Instead, he walked over to Lu Yenzhou, towering over him, and asked, "How does it feel to be toyed with? Does it feel good?" Lu Yenzhou's face twisted as he demanded, "Cheng Yu, I don't recall any grievances between us. Even if you didn't want to lend me money, there was no need to humiliate me like this." Cheng Yu let out an abrupt laugh, his smile not reaching his eyes as he said, "Mr. Lu, you used to be so high and mighty, humiliating others without batting an eye. How is it that you can't take it when it's your turn? Do you remember that girl who liked you and wrote you a love letter? only to be humiliated by you when you posted it on the bulletin board. That's my cousin. After you humiliated her, she transferred schools and has been in a daze ever since, often locking herself in her room for days on end. We hired the best doctors, and only recently has she slowly started to emerge from the shadow you cast over her." The private room fell silent instantly. No one dared to mediate or try to sweep the matter under the rug, as many were aware of the incident. Lu Yenzhou had been too ruthless in his actions, not leaving himself any room for maneuver. It was no surprise that he was being confronted today. I swirled the wine glass in my hand. The reason I didn't know about these things was that I had good academic performance, got early admission, and didn't return to school much afterward. Lu Yenzhou's expression changed, panic setting in, but the words that came out of his mouth were still stubborn and vicious. "She's mentally fragile herself. What does it have to do with me?" Qingyu gave a self-deprecating smile, then with a sinister look in his eyes, he suddenly kicked out, and the screams echoed again in the private room. "Indeed, I shouldn't waste my breath on a scumbag like you." Qingyu kicked several times before finally venting most of his anger. Calming down, Lu Yenzhou had 2 broken ribs, the pain nearly knocking him unconscious. He struggled to turn his head to look around, and his gaze met mine, which was lowered, enjoying the spectacle. "Sheng Ling, you save me." His voice wasn't loud, but the private room was quiet, and most people heard him. Qingyu raised an eyebrow, temporarily withdrew his foot, turned to look at me, and his eyes showed a slight apprehension. "Does Miss Sheng want to show mercy to a scumbag?" I didn't answer, just watched as Lu Yenzhou, beaten to the brink of unconsciousness, crawled over clumsily. Then, as soon as he crawled in front of me, I raised my hand and poured the red wine in my hand all over Lu Yenzhou's head. The kind of scum who tramples on others' sincerity is the one I detest the most. How could I possibly have any compassion? Lu Yenzhou looked even more wretched. Like a thoroughly drenched chicken caught in the rain, he looked at me with great difficulty, his eyes full of disbelief. I looked at him coldly, finding his expression ridiculous. In my previous life, Lu Yenzhou went to extreme lengths to help Meng Xiaoqing take revenge on my family, causing my parents to pass away early and myself to be trampled into the dust. How much I hated him. Didn't he know that in his heart? How could he think that if he came to me for help, would help him without holding a grudge? Qingyu's eyes flashed with surprise, and the next second he grinned, stepping closer to lift Lu Yenzhou off the ground and throwing 2 punches at his face. Lu Yenzhou passed out directly. Qingyu called someone to throw Lu Yenzhou out of the club, then addressed the crowd without much apology. "That scumbag Lu Yenzhou is not easy to fool, otherwise I wouldn't have chosen today to ruin everyone's mood. Alright, today I'll foot the bill. Later, I'll have them bring out a few more bottles of good wine. Everyone, eat and have fun, and I'll take my leave first." Qingyu left without the slightest hesitation, as if he had come today solely to teach Lu Yenzhou a lesson. After he left, everyone in the private room looked at each other in confusion. Although still a bit dazed by what just happened, Lu Yenzhou's temperament is not one to be provoked, so no one would dare to show sympathy for him. Under the influence of alcohol, the atmosphere quickly became lively again. By the time the gathering ended, it was already late at night. I followed my friends out of the club, where many cars were waiting at the entrance. I waved goodbye to the few who were completely drunk, and only after seeing them being helped into the car by the driver did I part ways with my girlfriends. Luxury cars drove off one by one, and no one paid any attention to Lu Yenzhou, who was left unconscious not far away. I retracted my gaze, unconcerned, and stepped into my own car, lazily thinking that Lu Yenzhou was a tough troublemaker. Although Qingyu kicked a bit hard, it wouldn't kill anyone. It would just make Lu Yenzhou suffer a bit more. When I first returned from being reborn, I actually considered whether to have someone kidnap Lu Yenzhou and torture him to the point where he would beg for death but couldn't die. But when I thought about it carefully, at this point in time, there are plenty of people who don't want Lu Yenzhou to have it easy. Even without me, he wouldn't be having a good time. There's no need to dirty my own hands and give my rivals something to hold against me. After that day, I heard that Lu Yenzhou and Meng Xiaoqing got together. He lived in Meng Xiaoqing's apartment, claiming that he was only temporarily in a difficult situation and would eventually rise again. Meng Xiaoqing believed him, spending her own money every day to cook delicious meals for him, promising to always be by his side. Not only that, but Meng Xiaoqing also took out half of her assets to fund Lu Yenzhou's startup. Deeply touched, Lu Yenzhou rented a studio in the suburbs and began hiring staff. The Meng couple worked at our house for nearly 20 years, reaping countless benefits. With each sum of money spent, they really made a sound. Upon learning that the studio had already secured 2 collaborations, I spread the word privately about the former young master Lu starting a studio to venture into business. Lu Yenzhou has made many enemies, and those people, once they find out, will certainly not allow his studio to continue operating. After finishing these, I happily called my girlfriends to go shopping. As luck would have it, we ran into Lu Yenzhou and Meng Xiaoqing. Lu Yenzhou bought a beautiful diamond necklace and personally put it on Meng Xiaoqing. Turning my head, I happened to see him, and his eyes immediately darkened. Xing Lingyue, why are you everywhere? Seeing his annoyed expression, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. I was about to say the same about you, like a ghost that won't leave. Finally got a chance to go out, and then I run into you. It's really ruining my mood. You. Lu Yenzhou's face turned ashen, his temples throbbing with veins, looking as if he wanted to tear me apart. Meng Xiaoqing's gaze at me also carried hatred, and she clenched her teeth for a while before managing to suppress her anger. All right, Yenzhou, Miss Sheng has power and influence. We can't afford to offend her. Only when we surpass her will we earn the respect we deserve. Her friend couldn't stand it anymore and frowned. Speaking up, didn't you come over first and engage in impolite conversation? How can you blame Lingyue for not respecting you? I know she's standing up for me, but I have to say what needs to be said myself. Meng Xiaoqing, your parents stole important secrets from the Xing family and betrayed the Xing family first. You, too, are ungrateful. People like you don't deserve my respect. Nor are you qualified to talk about respect in front of me. Lu Yenzhou immediately stepped in front of Meng Xiaoqing, glaring at me. How dare you say that about Qinger? It was her parents' fault, not hers. I sent a message to have my bodyguards come over, my expression cold as I spoke, as if she never spent any of the money her parents got. You two really are a perfect match, like a broken pot with a broken lid. Upon hearing this, Lu Yenzhou became even angrier, already short-tempered. He raised his hand to hit me, but upon seeing the bodyguards rushing over behind me, his action paused, and he eventually lowered his hand with a grim expression, glaring at me with a dark face and threatening words. Xing Lingyue, don't get too smug. One day, you'll pay for the humiliation you've inflicted on me and Qinger today. Qinger, let's go. Lu Yenzhou pulled Meng Xiaoqing away without looking back. My bestie gave me a look that said it all. Is there something wrong with his brain? Does he think he's a domineering CEO in a short drama or something? I chuckled. He's indeed quite ill, but no need to worry, someone will cure him soon. Lu Yenzhou dared to speak harshly in front of me, simply because he succeeded in his previous life and believes he can rise to the top again this time. He never considered whether I would just watch him climb. Lu Yenzhou was immersed in the joy of closing a deal, but within a couple of days, his studio was smashed to pieces. The originally clean white wall was defaced with large red paint words, "Pay your debts." All electronic devices were broken, and Lu Yenzhou was extremely angry. The few employees he had managed to recruit, sensing the situation was dire and fearing for their safety, all fled. Moreover, the previously agreed-upon collaborations were also disrupted, and the money Meng Xiaoqing gave was essentially wasted, like throwing it into the water, unable to bear the blow. Lu Yenzhou took the remaining money and went out to get drunk, ending up completely wasted. He finally went back crying to Meng Xiaoqing, hoping to find comfort from her. But what kind of person was Meng Xiaoqing? When Lu Yenzhou was useful to her, she was extremely gentle and submissive. The moment she realized Lu Yenzhou was no longer useful, her attitude changed immediately. Lu Yenzhou's luggage was thrown into the hallway, and Meng Xiaoqing, gritting her teeth, said with deep regret, I shouldn't have believed you could succeed in the first place. Now look, most of our assets are gone. Pay me back, Lu Yenzhou. If you don't agree to repay the money, I'll call the police. Lu Yenzhou was completely stunned. He never expected the gentle and kind person from his memories, who once risked their life to save him, would turn into this. He desperately tried to explain, but Meng Xiaoqing wouldn't give him the chance, immediately ordering the security guards to throw him out. Lu Yenzhou was already deep in debt, and after leaving Meng Xiaoqing's residence, he didn't even have a place to stay. He wandered the streets at night and was beaten up by debt collectors. I looked at the photos sent by the private investigator and clicked my tongue twice. What a pity, but he deserves it. People who repay kindness with enmity deserve such a life. For the next month or so, I spent my days learning from my parents how to manage the company, and at night, I checked the photos and messages from private investigators to relieve stress. Lu Yenzhou was in a state of despair for a long time. He rented a basement, ate only one meal a day, and spent the rest of the time in a daze at home, but he didn't give up completely. after his period of depression, he tidied himself up and started thinking about borrowing money to start a business again. This is normal, after all. How could he give up completely after just one failure, given how successful he was in his previous life? Lu Yenzhou ran around trying to borrow money, facing many closed doors. Later, because he spoke disrespectfully to a boss, he was secretly beaten and had his leg broken. From then on, Lu Yenzhou completely fell into despair. On the day I started school, Lu Yenzhou, who was deep in debt, indeed couldn't make it to class. Now, not only was Lu Yenzhou crippled in one leg, but he was also constantly harassed by debt collectors kicking down his door, experiencing all the hardships he hadn't suffered in his previous life. That night, I heard that he couldn't bear his current life and committed suicide by jumping into a river. The private detective didn't intervene in secret, only telling me that before Lu Yenzhou died, he kept saying it was all a dream, and when he woke up, he would still be the respected CEO. Lu, I scoff at this. Lu Yenzhou doesn't deserve to live, and I believe that heaven has its eyes open and won't let him return. His soul only deserves to linger in the dark lake, watching day and night as I and others race towards a bright future. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.